Hello, hello everyone, and welcome back to another Misfits Racing League broadcast. My name is Strifium, and joining me, as always, for Tier 1 action, Mikcow. How are you doing today, Mr. Mikcow?
Oh, I'm doing great, Strifium. These Tier 1 guys, they definitely know how to put on a show for us. If you haven't seen Monaco, after this race, go to the Misfits YouTube channel and watch that Monaco race, because that was something special. And this week here in Baku, I'm hoping that we'll have just as exciting, even a more exciting race.
Yes, I am extremely excited as well, of course. Let's take a look at the circuit they're going to be venturing through. We already saw it for Tier 2 racing action, of course, but that is the street circuit there on screen. What a long Sector 3 DRS straight into Turn 1 it is, and such a great, unique opportunity for overtaking on that Turn 1, Turn 2, Turn 3 setup. It's such a good circuit. I love it for overtaking. Not a lot of people look at it for overtaking, but I definitely do, and if Tier 2 wasn't an example, or EU, of course, I think we're here for a very exciting show from our Tier 1 racers. Of course, let's take a look at where they've gone already this season. Really, to give you an idea of the build-up here, we saw them through Australia, Bahrain, Vietnam, China, of course, the Netherlands, Spain, Monaco, and now we're here in Baku. And after Monaco, all those drivers being so tightened up through that circuit, they get a little bit of an expansion to the tight-knit element of Monaco here in Baku, but still tight nonetheless. And then, of course, next week we move through into Canada, following that France, Austria, as well as moving through into the second half of our calendar, the British Grand Prix, following that Hungary, Belgium, Italy, Singapore, Russia, Japan, the US, Mexico, Brazil for the penultimate round, and to finish things off, Abu Dhabi. And of course, who is going to be lining up on the grids today? We have a new driver in a full-time seat this week. It is Becky B taking over for the reigning Tier 1 champion, Mr. Zmayo. Unfortunately, hate to see him leave the grid as a full-time racer, except, well, now Becky in the slot getting the call to go for the German squad. We'll see how he goes in his full-time debut. Alex Bitto and Hyper over for the Scuderia at Ferrari, and Zamis and Swifty over at Red Bull. Yoda and Rackety for McLaren, with Remco Van Putten and BTFU for Renault. Shenjay and Freeware for AlphaTauri, of course. Fubar and Fubar, tongue twister there, and Neon Rays for Racing Point. Nigel and John for Alfa Romeo. It's Henners and Astrodate for Williams, or excuse me, Haas with King and Custom for Williams. Getting a little bit ahead of myself there, Mick. I'm very excited to get into this race as we move through into the standings, of course. Let's take a look. Shenjay, 100 points for the AlphaTauri driver leading this championship. Yoda there in second, Nigel in third, and it's the AlphaTauris who are leading the Constructors' Championship as well. Of course, the stewards report following Monaco. As you said it, Mikcow, the stewards would love and like to congratulate Tier 1 on a relatively clean and thrilling race last week in Monaco. It was something else indeed, and with all of that being said, I do believe we are just about ready to go racing here around the Baku street circuit.
Yep, all the drivers are in. We have a full grid this evening, so I'm very, very excited. In terms of the circuit, you know, Baku infamous for its very, very tight and narrow castle section. So we're going to see how our Tier 1 guys handle that during the race. You know, it doesn't matter how experienced you are, that section can always catch you out if you're not paying attention, as well as the sharp left-hander of turn 15 with the very, very high curve, which you actually have to hop over as to find the most amount of lap time. And then, of course, that very, very long main straight where we're going to see the majority of the overtaking. But I wouldn't pass up any overtaking opportunities into turn 3 either.
Yeah, and one thing, of course, every time we jump into one of these races, dynamic weather, Mikcow, the driver's getting that roll of the dice. And right now, things looking a little cloudy here around Baku. And you can see the clouds moving on screen right now. It looks like the sun trying to peek its way through the lens flares as well on what we're seeing. And we'll have to get the weather report from the racers. Of course, for those of you tuning in, welcome to the racing action. Get your friends, get comfortable, because we are about to witness some very, very intense racing, if history of this grid through the season has anything to say about it.
Now, I do believe we have a couple of reserves filling in for this race. So we have Fraser in the AlphaTauri, actually filling in for the current championship leader. So Chenjay, unfortunately not able to be in this one. We also have a new reserve, Alf, in the Scuderia Ferrari, replacing Hyper this evening. And we have Brownie in at that Racing Point. So two reserves very, very established in the MRL, and a newcomer here who has shown some great pace throughout the week. So I'm curious to see how they go in the actual race around Baku this evening.
Yeah, these clouds looking really threatening right now. Who knows what we're going to see? You can see a huge change in tires coming out on outlaps right now, and it's going to be Henners, the first driver that's going to be crossing that line to get their first lap in for the Haas team. And of course, Henners, no stranger to Baku. He's been here 3 times now for MRL. He's been racing with us since the first season, Mikcow, as far back as when you and I were racing on the grid here in Misfits.
Yeah, that was a long time ago, Strifium, and don't remind me of Baku, please. I don't particularly enjoy my last experience here in MRL. But we won't get into that here.
Yeah, the guy that was responsible is no longer on the grid either, Mr. Zmayo, of course. I'm sure if he's watching, he's got a good grin on his face. But of course, Henner's now coming through this Sector 3 straight here. Talk to us a little bit about this circuit, Mikcow. It's a great one.
Well, this main straight goes on seemingly forever. So it can be very, very hard to spot your braking point for turn 1. Braking just before the 100-meter board, and then using that curb on the exit of turn 1, and then into turn 2, the second 90-degree left-hander. Important to get a good exit. A little bit of wheel spin there for the Haas driver, it seems, but he seems to have gotten a decent exit. And then into turn 3, another 90-degree left-hander, and then a 90-degree right-hander for turn 4. It can be very, very hard to put the power down out of those corners, at least from my personal experience. Then from turn 5, you want to keep it tight to open up turn 6 as much as you can. Compromise the entry to maximize the exit. Heading into turn 7 now. Want to take all of that inside curbing, but be careful not to hit the wall. And now the infamous castle section, turn 8, 9, 10, and 11 at the top of the hill as the car just tries to get away from you through the elevation change. Then turn 12. And then heading through 13 and 14 completely flat out. And then turn 15. See, he doesn't choose to hop over the curbing. Just to keep the car as stable as you can, but the quickest way around that corner is to hop over that curb. I think that will separate the good drivers from the great ones this evening. And then turn 16, the final proper corner, that 90-degree left-hander before this entire section is flat out, and you just gun it down the straight and see who has the least amount of wing on your setup. So just going to wait until Henry crosses the line. It's going to be a 1 minute 38.9 to start us off.
Nicely done from him. Let's take a look on board now. The Dutchman, Remco van Putten, flying in the Renault. I think he will be the next driver to set a lap here, and he's on the medium, so we're going to get a bit of a comparison between these guys. And now, as I say, he's opted to abort that lap. As Becky B, the newest reserve on the block, or excuse me, the newest full-time racer here at Mercedes on the block, a 138.2 on the softs, Aleph, making his reserve debut, a 138.2 from him. Excuse me, a 138.6 as the grid keeps shuffling on me. Alex Bitto into provisional pole in the Ferrari, a 137.758.
That's a quick time, especially for a green track for the Spaniard. Freeware, just outside the 37s with a 38 flat, also on the soft compound tire. Alf said his first time on the mediums, and if my memory serves me right, that's a really good time for the mediums. That was about a second and a half.
Another very fast driver that we've seen through some races in MRL, Brownie. He is currently flying through out of turn 16, and we saw him jump the curb on the inside of 15, Mikcow. So, as you said, good from the great here. We'll see if it's going to be great enough to get ahead of Alex. He is on the softs, Mr. Brownie, so we'll have to see if it's enough. Just to get onto pole position, what's it going to be?
Ooh, it's not going to be enough. He'll slot him into 4th with a 1 minute 38.26. So 500th off Becky B in that Mercedes. Still quite a few drivers yet to set a time. We'll see how they do as they cross the line. Rackety going into 9th place with a 1 minute 39.2.
BTFU now crossing the line. A 140.7 Mick on the mids as well, and Yoda is flying as well. He's just come through turn 2.
Just also keeping an eye on Custom. He's making his way just past that castle section to the flat out shallow left corners of 13, 14 into 15. Tries to hop it. Seems quite clean so far. We'll see what time this gets him. Just zooming down that long main straight, trying to time that DRS as perfectly as he can. What's the time going to be? It's going to be a 40.6 for the Williams driver, so he beats BT by a 10th. But that's the best he can manage thus far.
Switching back over to the McLaren of Yoda right now. He's pulled off to the inside just ahead of turn 15 here, letting fast movers by, but he's missing his entire front wing portion, Mick.
That's not good.
I don't know what happened to him. Maybe something in the iconic castle section of this circuit. But of course, Swifty, the Red Bull, currently no time set. He's coming down through turn 3.
Into turn 3 and 4 he goes. See what he's able to do in the middle sector of the track. Seems very clean so far. Still quite a few drivers yet to set a time, but they'll be setting times soon enough. Swifty now heading into the castle section. Nice and reserved, if I say so myself, but you don't want to chop off your whole wing. You've already seen previous, so just trying to get a lap on the board, it seems. Let's see what he does for turn 15. Oh, he tried to do it.
Well, the wheels caught the wall there, fortunately for him, not the wing.
Yeah, but he gets a pretty good exit out of a final proper corner. So now we wait.
Yeah, it's a straight charge through here.
Just full beans. All you have to do is time that DRS as perfectly as you can. Keep the car in a straight line. Across the timing line, it will be a 1 minute 39.010. So he's 100th faster than his teammate from in the other side of the garage.
Another driver to talk about, Nigel in the Alfa Romeo. He's flying down through Sector 3, as is Remco van Putten on medium compound tires. We'll have to see what times they're able to set forth here, but it's going to be Nigel in the Alfa, the first out of those two. What's it going to be? Second at 137.875 from the Alfa. And he's been showing a fantastic pace this season. Remco van Putten now a 139.639 on the medium compound tires.
That's a good time.
Fraser in the AlphaTauri. He crosses 6th quickest, a 138.5. Filling in for Shenjie.
So Brainster will just be starting his lap. Astrudite. Nope, that's the other Haas. So Henry started his lap as well.
Well, 7 minutes remaining, pretty well here in qualifying. Of course, we have that desync.
Yeah, so the other drivers probably will have an extra minute and a half or so to start their final runs when we get to that stage in qualifying. Still 3 drivers yet to set a time. Brainstu, who's currently on a flying lap. S-King and Yoda as well.
Brewer beginning a lap as well, looking to improve that 138 flat. Wants to get himself further up onto the front row, perhaps.
Yeah, just keep my eye on this Mercedes in Sector 2. Seems to be on a pretty decent lap so far. Had a couple of taps with the wall, but I don't see any damage coming from it. But he has a little bit of wheel spin out of turn 16, so that's not going to help. Let's see what he is able to do.
Currently on board with Brain Stew in the Mercedes. Currently 20th on your timing tower. Yet to set a time. What's it going to be?
It's going to be second.
And hello, he says.
37.844.
Welcome to the party, Mr. Brain Stew. His teammate, meanwhile, coming down to the line as well.
Let's see what Becky do. He improves by 3/10, but it's only good enough to push him up a spot. So that's a 1 minute 37.9 for the Mercedes driver. Very, very strong performance from Mercedes so far this session.
Yes, very strong. And speaking of drivers on flyers, I was checking in with the 2 racing points, and it appears that Brownie, on an invalidated time, Mick. So he's going to have to come in.
That's unfortunate. Let's see who else is on a lap at the moment. Well, Freeware's ending his lap. Well, Freeware's taken provisional pole with a 1 minute 37.5.
Yeah, Alex right now. He was flying. I think he's had an issue. Yeah, he has, Mikcow. His front left wing, major damage on that Ferrari. So he's going to have to come in and go back out to set another time here. And he's not the only one to do so. We saw Brownie earlier. Another driver we haven't seen really much through this qualifying session, Mick. Haven't really seen him at all. Zamis is in 7th position right now, showing good pace. 138.5 his time.
Yeah, it's a solid time from the Red Bull driver. He's able to improve from that 39.02 that he had previous. So he's now in 7th position, as you said. Only a couple hundredths, or only 100th actually, faster than Fraser behind him. So, as always, this grid in Tier 1 is very, very tight. But still, 2 drivers yet to set a lap. Looks like S-King's coming through the castle section now. And Yoda's still in the pits, if that's accurate.
I do believe that is accurate. Of course, King, on those medium compound tires, Mikcow has shown fantastic pace through the season of Tier 1 so far over at Williams. A little bit sketchy out of 15 there.
And he's backed out of it.
So, I find it just builds pressure for yourself when you don't have a time on the board when things come down to the wire like this. Of course, he has maybe his own strategy in mind. You never know. But Henners has retired in the pit lane now. He's finished for the session, if I'm not mistaken.
John's shooting up to P7 with a 1 minute 38.4. So he'll beat out Zanis. That's a very, very nice time from the Alfa Romeo.
Now there's a Ferrari. That's Aleph in 10th now. And he has no front wing on that Ferrari. So he's had an issue, and he'll be coming in to get things switched over.
Another car with a mysterious front wing and disappearance. Can add that to the list. Don't blame these drivers. You have to be really, really pushing it, and you just have to throw the car into the castle section and hoping that it sticks and that you don't hit the wall. You don't turn in too late. You don't turn in too early. Because if you mess up even slightly going at that speed, you are going straight for the wall.
That's right. And of course, to our viewers, thank you very much for watching. If you're just tuning in, you are watching Tier 1 racing action. My name's Strifium. Joining me from the land down under is Mikcow, and we are here in qualifying, just shy of 3 minutes remaining. Custom on a flyer. Of course, hit that follow button if you're new. Racing action regularly here on the Misfits channel.
We'll see what the Williams is able to do. It looks like he's actually pulling into the pits. He's hit the wall very hard entering the pits, but keeps his suspension intact.
He is lucky. Lucky, I think, is the term I'm going to use for that one, Mick.
It certainly is quite the stroke of luck to be able to continue after that kind of impact. The driver of note who we haven't seen too much of, or he hasn't really shown his hand yet, is Remco Van Putten. Currently sitting at the bottom of the timing tower. A 1 minute 39.6. I do believe that was on the medium compound. He's now on a set of softs, making his way into sector 3 now, Strif.
Yeah, he hasn't had the most luck, but he's a second up coming through the split into sector 3, and that is big because he's already a 139.6 on this timing tower. If he's a second up, Mikcow, he's going to jump right into the middle of things, if not into the front of things here. We'll have to see what he's able to do now. DRS wide open for Remco Van Putten coming down the pit straight.
Oh, and he is backed out of it. He'll jump his teammate, but he won't really get much further than that. So I don't know. He's planning to start.
He wants the mids. He wants the mids, Mick. That's the only explanation. Well, yes, the harder compound tire. Yeah, harder mid. We'll have to see.
All these drivers now out for their final runs in qualifying. Aphrodite has retired from the session as well in the pit lane, so both Haas boys are done. Brownie.
Ooh, there's an issue in sector 3, it would appear.
That's one of the Alfa Romeos. I think it's just Jean actually is retired from the session. He's in the pits. Nigel gearing up to go. I'm just keeping my eye on this racing point in sector 2 of Brownie. Currently on his final run in the session. OEN invalidates over turn 15. So that's going to be a wasted attempt, but he might try and go again.
Zamis now looking across. He's up, Mick. He's up. What's it going to be? 7th. He improves by 0.169. He jumps ahead of Jean.
Yep, so retakes that P7 spot. Only a 10th, separating him and Brownie. There's quite the gap between Brownie and the top 5. Just goes to show how good that lap actually was. The yellow flag, like Rackety's just chilling. Yoda and S-King still yet to set a proper qualifying time. And the checker flag's going to drop any minute, as it does now. Remco Van Putten will stay in 16th. So it is truly one shot for those two.
Oh, Mikcow. I think we're going to have a new arrival to the front 5 here. Aleph, currently sat in P10, is up a massive amount coming through the split. And I think we're going to see a major improvement here at the line. And for some reason, he's decided to back out coming into the pit lane.
He must want to start on those medium tires as well. Becky B will jump his teammate up into 3rd place with a 1 minute 37.8. So that's a very strong time from the Mercedes. Nigel will jump up to P2. But no one able to break that 37.5 as of yet. We're going to see what Alex Bitto is able to do. He's got the McLaren in front. He might actually get a little bit of a slipstream here. Will it be enough? Has he put the lap together?
Oh!
And he actually gets a 5th-place grid penalty for just slamming into Rackety. Not quite sure what the AI car was thinking there. Just suddenly breaking, but certainly is interesting. Alex Bitto unable to improve. You see his car just stranded there on the pit straight.
Very,
Swifty.
very odd turn of events there for the Ferrari, as it appears that Rackety's AI... Was that Rackety's AI? I believe it was Rackety's AI.
Yeah, it was Rackety.
Taking the Ferrari out of his front podium position here. Or, well, pole, not pole.
His front row.
His front row. What I mean to say, I'm just... Wow, that was interesting to switch on over to.
Swifty now, the only one currently just to finish his flying lap. Coming through the final corner now. Or final proper corner, I should say. The rest of it's flat out. Hopefully he doesn't suffer the same fate. Because the AI is going very slowly. Does well to avoid them. What's the time going to be? Is it going to be enough to improve? I don't think it was. So you'll stay 16th, it seems. So that is your grid for this Azerbaijan Grand Prix Strifium. Might take us through our top 10.
Freeware going to be starting this race on pole position. Alex Bitto, who scored the second fastest time, is actually going to be taking a 5-place grid penalty, which is going to promote Nigel to the front row, with Becky B rounding out your top 3 racers here. Of course, we will take you through the rest of this grid on the formation lap.
Yeah, so with that grid penalty, Bitto will drop down from 2nd to 7th. So it'll be an all Mercedes second row. Probably not what we're used to seeing nowadays, but that is still a very, very strong result from the German squad.
Yeah.
We're just going to wait for the drivers to finalize their setups and their race strategies, their fuel loads, and pray to the heavens above to not crash in that castle section. And for a clean turn 1 as well.
Exactly. And of course, if you're just tuning in, you're here for Tier 1 racing action. It is the Misfits Racing League, round number 8. The Azerbaijan Grand Prix, and I am extremely excited for this. I hope you all are. Grab your friends, get the drinks in, get the popcorn, the snacks, all the super fun, fantastic things I like to have when watching a race, because we're going to be parked here for the next hour watching some seriously, what I think is going to be some seriously intense battling, Mikcow, around Baku. Not a single cloud in sight in comparison to qualifying. Dry racing looks to be the occasion, and what a qualifying it was. A lot of tight running drivers on this grid.
Yeah, you're not wrong there, Strifium. Certainly was a very, very interesting qualifying session. Some very, very fast and tight times. Just going to see what we've got for tyre strategy. So everyone except for Remco Van Putten and Henners in that back 5 opting to start on the hards, with Henry and Remco Van Putten going to starting on the mediums.
What a strategy difference. What a strategy difference. All those drivers having to start on the softs because they qualified on the softs. Freeware leading this race on pole position here at start. Of course, Nigel in second, Becky B rounding out your top 3. His teammate, Brainstew, I imagine, not going to be too disappointed to see the Merc ahead of him. That's just filled the seat. For, of course, Mayo Brownie there in 5th. Zamis in 6th. Alex Bitto got dropped into 7th after the grid penalty saw him leave 2nd position. Jean in 8th. Yoda in 9th. Fraser in 10th. Aleph in 11th position. BTFU in 12th. Neon Rays in 13th with Custom in 14th. We have Henners in 15th in the Haas with Swifty in the Red Bull splitting up the Haas squad. That's Astro in 17th position. Remco Van Putten in 18th on these medium compound tires. Rackety and King rounding out this grid 19th and 20th respectively. Of course, things quite tight given qualifying and, well, given the tire choices, we're going to have quite the shakeup here at points in this race that I am extremely, extremely excited to see.
Yeah, it looks like Brownie's had a little bit of an issue. So he's left the session.
If anybody happens to know the driver, never mind. There we go. I think that driver has now left. Hopefully Brownie can get back in here real quick before this race begins. Of course, Brownie starting this race currently in 5th.
Yep, so just wait for the drivers to make their way to the grid. Seems quite spread out on this formation lap. But nevertheless, Freeware. Is this his first pole? I think it might be his first pole position, actually.
It might just be Freeware's first pole position in Tier 1. And, well, he's been consistently out-qualifying Shenjie. I suppose it was only a matter of time. Of course, Shenjie not even here at the moment. So, Shenjie, if you're with us on the broadcast, well, congratulate your teammate, of course. Doing good.
Certainly doing well for himself, but now all the cars are on the grid.
3,
As the
4,
light sequence
5.
begins.
And Brownie is in. But his car is even further, and it's taken a massive amount of damage on the starting line as well.
Yep, that's just the glories of Codemasters, but the lights are out and away we go. Looks like a pretty clean start for most of the grid. No one getting any damage aside from the AI car of Brownie.
Yes, and it's Alex Bitto very close right now to, of course, the rear of Becky B. Becky B's dropped into 4th position here as Brownie has taken the lead. The AI-controlled car, you hate to see it, but it is Freeware effectively in lead of this race right now. And Alex Bitto looking at all of this.
And as Henry making the most of those medium compound tires, slotting himself up into 12th places. There's been a massive accident behind. That's Astrodight in the Haas.
Yeah, and Customs just moved around and weaved through on the Red Bull. That's Swifty, and I think King might get him as well. There's a big issue. The AI-controlled car of Astrodight, it would appear, up the inside now, causing tons of issues here. Not entirely sure what's going on there. You can see the red X, but it's going to be the Williams of King getting ahead of him. Now Freeware has moved ahead of Brownie. I believe Brownie back in control of that car, but he has damage. And it's something that he's going to be really frustrated with. Of course, there's a little bit of contact.
Massive accident there. So Brownie is missing all of that front wing, and looks like Nigel's picked up damage as well. Becky B, looking on that left-hand side, he's trying to find a way past these two cars going side by side with damage in this flat-out section. This is very, very sketchy. All these cars very, very close together. Let's see what's going to happen down this main straight. Surely the two in front will have to pit. Alex Bitto trying to find a gap around that through the middle. There's a whole massive amount of cars here on this back main straight. They're all fighting for just a place on the track.
Alex Bitto getting through. He's in 4th. He's made it on Fraser. He's made it on Yoda now. He's in looking for Brain Stew, and he has a little bit of damage, it would appear, on the front left. We'll take a look on the rear of the Mercedes coming down into turn 3. He's on the rear of Jean, and we have a massive train, a massive exchange of positions here coming down into turn 3. What a race start we've had. This grid has been so tight. There's contact. That's Alex Bitto out of this race.
Wow, that is a massive, massive accident. Virtual safety car has been called. And that is quite the impact.
Well, VSC is out, and we've had massive intensity.
So crazy, crazy start to this race.
Of course, the viewers asking for the restart in the chat. The restart is not going to be called, if I'm not mistaken, Mikcow?
Nope, we'll keep going as is. Been a crazy, crazy start to this race, though, I will say that. Virtual safety car should be lifting any moment now, hopefully. As we are back to green flag racing again. Freeware is making out like a bandit. He's already got a 4-second lead after the first lap and 2/3. Alf now in that Ferrari, going down the inside of Zamis into turn 16. So he's now up in 6th place as well. As Becky B is out as well. Looks like he's crashed at the castle section. Oh no.
Zamis is round. Zamis is round in Sector 3, and the Red Bull has gone around, and that is going to lose him a bunch of positions. And we have more yellow flags popping up here. And there has just been issue after issue in this lobby, Mikcow. It's Swifty into 13th position ahead of his Red Bull teammate. And what a problematic lobby.
Yeah, it's hasn't been the cleanest start. Most of the guys able to find their footing. Now that DRS has been enabled, it looks like BTFU was able to get past Henry at the VSC restart or sometime after that. Looks like Henry makes a massive dive into turn 3, but he's able to get the car slowed down and will hold on to that position. So very, very nice overtake from the Haas driver. His teammate Astrodight finally rejoins the session. Hopefully he's able to take control of that car and get back racing.
Yeah, good battle we're seeing between these two right now. Henner's on those medium compound tires showing good pace, but BTFU has to get through here to keep Neon Rays at bay. Of course, Henner's and Neon Rays teammates last season for a brief period over at Williams. Neon Rays is going to want to get through on Henry as well.
Henry certainly acting as a little bit of a bottleneck for the drivers behind. 3 seconds is the gap between him and Alf. Just ahead of him, but speaking of Alf, he is very close to the back of Yoda in that McLaren. Let's see what the Ferrari driver is able to do.
Yes, and of course
that DRS. But Yoda also having DRS off Fraser. Fraser, however, will not have DRS. This looks like Brainsuit heading into the pits for an early pit stop. So we won't see any moves heading into turn 1 for these three. We'll see what's going on behind them. Looks like BTFU is trying to make the move on Henners into turn 1. Neon Rays very, very close behind them. BTFU is a little bit squirrely on the exit. So Henry is through once again, but BTFU will have that DRS heading into turn 3. The overtake button is on for both of these drivers. Neon Rays just having that DRS, trying to stick with those two. So BTFU isn't able to get close enough as Custom and Astrodite having a little bit of a tussle. Custom now up into 15th place, chasing down Brownie, who's had an awful start to this race after those connection issues.
Yeah, it's been a wild, wild race. Just want to address something, of course, for all the viewers. The difference between Monaco last week for Tier 1 and Baku, in the sense, of course, we did have a restart in Monaco last week. The only reason we did was because the way through on the circuit was actually obstructed. And there was about 16 cars in collisions in that race. Of course, Baku, all of these drivers on Tier 1 grid should be accustomed to the very, very unique and dangerous circuit at this point in time. Charging through a field of 6 cars wheel to wheel, not advised currently. It's Aleph hunting down Yoda through turn 16 in that McLaren. He's holding 4th.
Yeah, Alf very, very close to that, the back of that orange McLaren. 2/10 is the gap. Yoda using that overtake as well. They'll both have the DRS. Let's see if Alpha is able to gain enough. Looks like about evil pegging, but Alpha might have a couple extra Ks on the speedometer. As Fraser makes a massive mistake, massive lock up into turn 1, but he's able to get the car slowed down enough. And so they'll hold station for now.
Yeah, and it appears the intervals on the timing tower in the lobby have once again left us. Of course, if there's anyone from the lovely game developers office watching these races, take notes.
Yoda. Henry and BTQ side by side into turn 3. This could get interesting. They're still side by side, Strippers. They made their way into turn 4. BT has that inside line. There's a little bit of a tap there, but no love lost between those two. Neon Rays just looking for any way past these two. They're still side by side. There's a little bit of a tap, and that's BTFU actually off into the escape road. So he's lost out of that fight. Very, very unfortunate for him. And S-King is actually capitalized as well as Neon Rays now back into 8th place.
Yeah.
Rackety looking around the outside, heading into the castle section. You'll get the move done. Neon Rays thinking better of it, just backing out of that one. 2 into that castle section. That is crazy.
Yeah, the trains are starting to form here. Meanwhile, Yoda has Aleph still hunting him down, and they're coming through turn 15, Mikcow. Aleph very tight to the rear of that McLaren.
Yeah, it doesn't look like Yoda has any damage. He must have made some massive mistake. He's dropped way back off the back of Fraser in that AlphaTauri.
Yeah, well, he's a sitting duck here.
Yeah, he's a sitting duck. DRS open. Alpha using a bit of that overtake. As it looks like Fraser will head into the pits, so like Alpha and Yoda now up into P3 and 4.
Yeah, King starting to catch up with Henners now. Henners is into 5th as Fraser's opted to jump into the pit lane, and he's going to come out on some fresh medium compound tires.
Yeah, so it looks like he's going to be going for the 2-stop.
Now Brownie charging through. He's past Custom, excuse me, Mikcow, as Custom has jumped into the pit lane, and Astrodite's seen a retirement. And it looks like it's turn 3.
His car's just sort of stuck there in the middle of the road. Hopefully all the drivers can get around him. Looks like the car has disappeared now, which is very, very good. So that won't be causing any issues. But 3 retirements in 6 laps. isn't something we're used to seeing in this Tier 1 grid, but it is Baku. Anything can happen, so...
Yeah, well, it's just a classic case of the stewards being happy, patting the tier on the back, and then they throw it out the window as soon as the race gets started. Of course, Neon Rays right now half a second behind Rackety.
Yeah, Rackety, ooh, he's hit the wall there. And he's lost that right end plate. So, he's going to be feeling it almost immediately. That front right end plate is quite important actually around this circuit. Just having any wing at all is quite important around this circuit, if I'm being honest. But Neon Rays and Swifty, both within that DRS range of the car in front. We're going to see what they're able to do. Neon Rays will have to get past this McLaren as soon as he can to not lose time to S-King, who's already pulled out a 2-second gap after that damage. Rackety really struggling through the final of 3 corners.
Bunch of pit stops coming through. Freeware onto the mids.
Yeah, a few so the leaders have pit. Neon Rays will get past the McLaren of Rackety. Swifty, with a massive lockup on that front left, isn't quite able to make that move stick as well. Nigel will pick up a 3-second time penalty, and Freeware has actually come out in 3rd ahead of those two fighting and just has to deal with S-King in that Williams to get past. But all these drivers opting to go on the medium compound tires. I'm not sure if those will make it to the end, if I'm being honest.
It's going to be a real interesting strat to see from the German driver. He's currently net P1 as the drivers ahead of him yet to pit. And everyone behind him, basically all the way down through to John as well, yet to pit in this race. So he's doing quite well for himself. John currently in 7th. 2.7 seconds is the gap to P6, and he's slowly bringing that down. But he has Fraser behind him in the other AlphaTauri.
Yeah, there's some gaps that are really starting to close up. I'm watching this gap currently between BCFU and Yoda in the battle for P9. And Brainstew behind them as well, hunting them down. BCFU seems to be struggling on those older, hard compound tires. Yoda just biding his time, though. Just waiting for the safest and most clean opportunity he can to make that pass. Can be very hard, if not impossible, to pass through Sector 2. But down this long main straight, it will be a no contest, I'm sure, between these two.
Yeah, I think Yoda's really struggling to get temperature in his tires right now, Mikcow, because it's Brainstew on the 2-lap old hards. He's gaining on the McLaren. A little bit of a slide out from the Mercedes. A little bit of a loss of breath for a moment there for me. I didn't know if he was going to go through the wall or if it was going to carry on, but he's lost as a result. Meanwhile, Yoda, DRS, overtake. Very easily done for him. It would be down into P9, through into Turn 1. And, of course, Swifty and Jean, they've exchanged. It's Jean into 6th position as well.
Yeah, Jean up into that P6 spot. Rackety just trying to do his best to hold him at bay. He's still carrying that wing damage, don't forget. So after these drivers have pit, Jean, after making that move on Swifty, is going to be stuck behind this McLaren of Rackety for what seems to be the whole second sector, unless he's able to make a move heading into Turn 7. He's having a look, but I don't think he has enough speed to really get that move done.
Yeah, really close. Really important to be patient here in Baku. One driver I want to take note of is Brownie. Of course, we saw a bug result in some major damage for him and a jump start, basically. But, of course, he didn't have to serve a penalty for the jump start, but he had to repair a wing that he didn't even cause damage for himself to. And John now through on Rackety.
I'm being honest. So let's see, Brainstew eyeing up BTFU as well. There's these little pockets, right? There's these little pockets of drivers, all very close to each other. Freeware currently has a 9-second gap to make up on Alf, but he is a pit stop ahead, so he is still in that P1 of this race. With a little bit of a DRS train from 5th all the way down to 8th, I believe. Fraser having a look around Swifty. Swifty a little bit earlier on the brakes, a little bit of a tap. But it looks like both of those able to continue. BT, if you have a little bit of an issue as well with Nigel, as he gets passed by both him and Brainstew.
Yeah, Fraser coming back at Swifty now.
Oh, they're side by side heading into turn 3. Strifium, they both lock up slightly on that front left. They're still wheel to wheel, so they make the way into turn 4. Swifty will have their enter line. Brakes just a little bit later, trying to keep his nose in, but Fraser with those fresher mediums having the better traction. Swifty locking up again, and Yoda has just followed Fraser through. Wow, that was very, very opportunistic. Fraser now defending that inside of turn 7. Come on, guys. Heading into the castle. Don't do this again.
Yoda gets out in front. Wow, he concedes for the McLaren there.
I'll be honest, I wasn't expecting that.
No, neither was I.
I was expecting an aeroplane crash. That was
patience.
Maybe a side-by-side heading into the castle section. That is just super, super scary, and Fraser knows that. So just concedes the position and decides, you know what, I want to actually finish this race.
Yeah, meanwhile, Brainstew not having any time to wait here. He's made the move through on the inside of turn 16. He's into 9th ahead of Swifty.
Yeah, so it looks like he will make that move stick.
We're starting to see the race we wanted.
Yeah, but is it actually going to stick for long? Both of these drivers will have DRS. Both of them have that overtake mode on. They're still wheel to wheel. The two McLarens swapping positions as well, just up the road. But for Swifty and Brainstew, this is the fight for P9, ladies and gentlemen. They're still side by side, but Brainstew having that inside for turn 1 will stay ahead for now. But he misses the apex at turn 2. Oh, but Swifty has that massive slide, so he won't be able to make a move on this straight. But Swifty has to keep an eye in front, one eye behind us. Nigel now looking up the inside into turn 3. Massive lockups for those two. Nigel carrying a little bit of wind damage, it seems. They're still side by side. Heading into turn 3 is a little bit of a tap. But Nigel will make that move stick. And now BTFU is the next one to try and overtake the Red Bull.
A lot of great overtaking happening right now, Mikcow, here for Tier 1 Baku action. This is what we wanted to see. Now that all that other drama is out of the way, we can have ourselves a fantastic battle of cars here in this midfield. Everybody hunting down points right now. It's Aleph in lead of this race on the 9-lap Old Hards, Freeware in P2, and King in 3rd in the Williams.
Yep, and it looks like there's going to be a fight for 4th brewing very, very soon. Jean is only 3/10 away from that pink Mercedes in front of him. And with no DRS for Neon Rays, I think this is going to be a fairly easy move, but you never know. We'll just see what happens as they make their way into the main straight. Looks like Fraser is also caught up to the back of Rackety as well in the battle for 7th. So we'll see what happens here. Jean looking up that inside and gets past cleanly before the braking zone. Neon Ray's braking a little bit late. Fraser will get past Rackety as well for the braking zone. He'll have a massive lockup to boot though.
Yeah, and that's going to cost him big time. Rackety has Brainstew really close, and it's in a fight for points, and I think this Mercedes is hungry here. DRS overtake full swing right now. Rackety doesn't seem to have enough to keep him at bay here. The slipstream very strong. They're coming wheel to wheel. Mikcow into turn 3. The Mercedes lunging just ahead now, and it's clean for both of them.
So much later on the brakes. So much later on the brakes. He's able to get that move done. Up into P8. What a nice move there from the Mercedes, if I do say so myself. Swifty now has actually hit the wall. It's just switched to him. Currently sitting there in P12 as BTFU, I think, passed him a couple laps ago, if I'm not mistaken. But currently the closest gap on this grid is between that of Fraser and Brainstew in this battle for 7th.
Yeah, Brainstew's on a charge, Mick, on these hard compound tires right now. Doing a lot of good overtaking.
He might be able to get those to the end of the race. There's a sector flag in, yellow flag in sector 2. And that is Brownie. He's hit the wall at the castle section, so his race has gone from bad to worse. Oh no. So very, very disappointing for the German driver.
Yeah, I think he's got damage on that racing point right now.
He's got a lot of damage on that racing point, Strifium. He's missing the entire side of his right wing, I believe.
Right now, though, Nigel, Rackety in a battle through Sector 3. They're wheel to wheel right now. There's a bit of a contact between the two. Nigel doing good, though. Bouncing off that McLaren, getting that Alpha back under control right now, but it's still Rackety leading down, even with the DRS coming out of that Alpha. It's very tight. Rackety, is he going to be the first of the late breakers here? No. Nigel getting the move done.
He was first, I believe. First of the late breakers.
First of the late breakers. Something like that. How do we go? Of course, Swifty's come into the pit lane now. He's going to get some fresh medium compound tires on, and there's been another exchange. Brainstew has made the lunge on Fraser. He's into 7th position now.
Wow, so Brainstew doing really well for himself on those hard compound tires. We'll see if he's able to pull a gap before the long straight in sector 3. Is a little bit of a tap there. Fraser, it's a little bit late on the brakes. Gives the Mercedes a nice little nudge there. But BTFU now has caught up to this limping McLaren of Rackety, who's still carrying that damage, I believe, from I think lap 3 it was. And yes, he is. So still missing that front right end plate. Let me get my words out. So he's been falling like a stone. BTFU now next to overtake the McLaren.
There's little pockets all over this grid.
So one McLaren's defending, the other McLaren's attacking. Yoda up in P6, within 3/10 of Neon Rays in front of him. We'll see what he's able to do. He uses a bit of that overtake button just to get a little bit more power down the straight. DRS will be opening as he crosses that line. And he's gaining, he's going, and I think he's gone. That is the McLaren up into P5. Neon Rays with a massive lockup into turn 1.
Yeah, Rackety's jumped into the pit lane.
Yeah, Rackety into the pits to change that wing. Nigel to the pits as well. Brainstew now staying ahead of that AlphaTauri Fraser, but Fraser having a little bit of a look down the inside ending into turn 1. So that could have been quite catastrophic, but both those drivers able to make it out in one piece.
Yes, most definitely. Fraser still sticking with him quite well on these mediums. Quick shout out to a member of the community, Mr. Ricky Ciardo. Welcome to the cast, my friend. Of course, if you guys were joining us for Tier 2, we ended our stream visiting Mr. Ricky Ciardo. I hope things went well. Welcome back. And of course, you're here for Baku. Fraser currently less than half a second in this fight for Brainstew. Of course, it was Brainstew who jumped Fraser. Fraser now looking to perhaps take the position back.
Oh, but Fraser has a massive lockup on that front left into the castle section. That's lost him a lot of time. And he loses the rear now on the exit of 12. So he has already fallen out 1.5 seconds. So that makes the only gap within DRS range between the two battling for 14th at the moment.
Yeah, look at the strategy differential on this timing tower. Look at all the difference in tire life. You got 9, 5, 0 for the fresh guys, 12, 13. There's a lot of difference in strategy, and that means that come the end of this race, there's going to be a lot, I think, of shuffling positions, Mikcow.
Yeah, yet to see if these mediums can make it to the end of the race. I don't think they can. So they probably will have to make another stop. But we'll wait and see as we have crossed over the halfway point in this race, actually. It's been a crazy first half of the race, but we've had some good battling once everything's settled down. And Swifty just trying to get as close as he can to that McLaren, but it looks like that gap is staying around 7/10 at the moment.
Swifty just wants that position off of Rackety, and they want to do their best to catch up Nigel as well, but Nigel's just flying away from them.
And Nigel's one who's shown some great pace. He showed it last season in Tier 2. He's showing it. We've seen glimpses of it in Tier 1, but of course Tier 1 a much more competitive grid than the Tier 2 of last season. So he seems to be struggling a little bit down in 13th, but we have seen him do very well over the first leg of the season. Of course, with 2 wins to his name in Australia and in Spain. I believe was this other one. Meanwhile, Swifty has caught right up to the back of this McLaren. 2/10 is the gap. They're heading into Sector 2 now, so it doesn't look like there'll be any moves just yet. Brainstew as well, making his way into the DRS range of Neon Rays. So the 2 Mercedes cars, both this year's and last year's, are going to be battling it out in probably a lap's time.
Yeah, things starting to heat up in the field as Brainstew who we saw on a charge, is now caught up with Neon Rays. He's going to have DRS as well, Mikcow, and he's carrying a lot of pace.
Oh, it looks like Neon Rays opting to pit to get off those hard compound tires, presumably go to a set of mediums to run to the end of the race.
A driver who's on mediums with very good pace in this race as well. Brownie in 17th position. I would not be surprised, Mikcow, if we saw the Racing Point get himself into the points here.
Oh, he's had a little bit of a moment. He catches the slide very well, does the German. Would have been shaking after that kind of slide. But meanwhile, it's side by side for Swifty and Rackety into turn 1. Rackety staying ahead for the time being, but there is another DRS zone. Swifty trying to focus on that exit. He has a little bit of a wheel spin, but it doesn't seem to have cost him too much. But it has certainly cost him enough to not make a move this time. But he certainly is keeping the McLaren driver honest. As Nigel's now in 17th.
Yeah, one thing to talk about here. Right. Jean, currently in 4th position, Mikcow, has caught up with King. And King is on his starting compound. He's on those hards. Jean on 7-lap-old mediums now, and it looks like there's been some kind of lag or desync issue because it's Jean rubber banding ahead, essentially, of the Williams.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with the lobby right now. But, hopefully it fixes itself. But, you know, it is Codemasters. So, I'll remain a bit pessimistic on that one.
Aleph comes out of the pit lane onto some fresh medium compound tires. He is in 4th, and he is in the fight already for 2nd position, as you see. King, Jean, wheel to wheel into turn 3. They're side by side. Jean getting out in front of King. Aleph not waiting around. He's on the inside of the Williams as well. Coming through turn 4.
There's a little bit of a tap. Oh, this is his best opportunity to get past. He can't be losing time to Jean. He will get the move done around the outside of turn 5. Wow. That is not a place you see overtakes very often.
Yeah, he's not sticking around here. He wants to hunt down that P1. He has these extremely quick tires right now. He's on a fantastic strategy. And Jean is going to give him an opportunity to pick up some pace down that straight here. So we'll see if Aleph wants to stick around or if he just wants to get as far out as he can here.
Oh, Jean just holding station, doing his best to defend from the charging Ferrari behind him. We'll see what he's able to do. Now we're down, coming into this main straight, the DRS zone. Open as there's a yellow flag in sector 2. I believe that's someone in the castle section.
That's Henry.
It's Henry. He's able to get that car moving, which is good, great to see. But Aleph is past the Alfa Romeo and is now up into P2 and now has an 8.2 second gap to chase down Freeware, who has been having an incredible drive, if I do say so myself.
Yes, he has been having an incredible drive. Mikcow from Van Putten currently 14th, hunting down 13th, and there's a few gaps forming. Well, I guess unforming is what I'll say on this grid at the moment, as there's a few battles happening on circuit. Swifty less than a second on Rackety, as well as this fight for 13th, and it's going to be Remco Van Putten with the move on the Williams. Wheel to wheel now, coming down the straight.
Yeah, he's keeping it very, very tight. Custom trying to squeeze him towards that pit wall, but Remco was having none of that. And Henry has crashed out of the race, trying to enter the pits. And we have a safety car. The full safety car has been deployed for that. Not sure how Henry's car managed to get back onto the middle of the track after entering the pits. Or crashing in the pit lane.
Yeah, must have been carrying a lot of speed on his way into the pit lane there, Mikcow, for his car to ricochet off the wall like that. Of course, Steward's going to be staring at that one. Well,
for any of those guys that pit super early for the mediums, this is a blessing. This is amazing for them because then they get a cheap pit stop. I'm wondering if Aleph will stay out. He probably might. It'll give him a chance at the win of this race, but yeah, doing 10 laps on softs, I don't think it's possible. These guys might want to try and go to a set of mediums if they have it. Aleph will stay out, so he will inherit the lead of this race. We'll see what Freeware's going on to. He's going on to a set of softs and changing his wing as well. Wasn't aware that he was carrying damage, so Aleph now into the lead of this race. Freeware will be coming out in second place as there is a whole lot of activity in this pit lane, Striff.
This is a big pace gamble from Freeware Mikcow because he's going onto these softs. He's got to go a good distance on these softs around a circuit that isn't very kind to those red rim tires. Of course, Aleph, he's on those mediums. He's going to have some pace in those as well. Of course, Freeware, the first thing is catching Aleph, well, making sure he gets ahead of Aleph, excuse me, on the safety car restart, and then maintaining it or escaping as best he can. But if Aleph happens to be able to stick with him, I think Freeware is going to be toast here to that Ferrari. But this has definitely neutralized this race. Of course, to everybody who's tuning in, thank you very much for sticking with us after a very unique and oddly dynamic Tier 1 race. It's not entirely the way we were thinking it was going to go, but it is exciting regardless. Of course, my name's Strifium. Joining me is Mikcow. Be sure to hit that follow button if you're enjoying, and tell your friends, because we have a safety car restart and a lot of fast guys here. They're going to be putting on some last phase fireworks in this Azerbaijan Grand Prix, and I'm extremely excited about it. That's for sure.
As I'm really curious if these drivers can make the softs last that long. I think they'll make it to the end of the race, but whether they'll be fast or not is a different question entirely. Because these softs wear out really, really quickly.
Yeah, and another curious move here, Brownie, a driver who has had, I think the best term is off, a very off race here in that racing point. The question is whether or not he'll be able to capitalize on this restart. Custom behind him as well. He's on the fresh medium compound tires. Nigel, if I'm not mistaken, has been lapped.
Yeah, he's been lapped. He's already in the queue between Yoda and Brainstew. So his race is, I don't know what's happened to his race. Maybe it's just Codemasters being Codemasters. But we'll have a look at it after the race. Has been noted. But yeah, this safety car is has definitely spiced up this race. It will give those drivers like Brownie and Remco Van Putten an opportunity to catch back up to the pack. As Remco Van Putten decides to enter the pits, get off those hard compound tires and put a different compound on. So he'll be the softs for the Renault driver. He will be coming up behind his teammate, I believe, unless these two, Swifty and Rackety, can jump him as well. No. So Remco Van Putten coming out in 11th place in the queue.
Putting those softs on as late as he can.
Now just going to wait for Custom and Brownie. They're making their switch to the soft compound tires. And they're just making their way out of the pits now, and we should be underway either the end of this lap or the end of next lap. I'm not entirely sure. It depends on how fast these two can, or these two want to catch up to the rest of the pack. I will say though, every lap that we do on the safety car, the more it helps these soft runners. Yoda going for those medium compound tires. He's not confident that those softs will have the pace at the end of the race. Neither is Zamus, BTFU, Rackety, or Swifty. So there is a big, big split between the softs and the mediums all the way down this grid. I think we'll be in at the end of next lap, it seems. It looks like Brownie and Custom just making their way through the castle section as the rest of the queue goes through that final left-hand turn before the long straight.
Very, very odd race so far, and I'm just trying to make sense of it all.
Yeah, it's been a crazy, crazy race, but that's what we can expect at Baku. You know, we've seen it in real life, and now we've seen it in the virtual space as well. Anything can happen at Baku, and oftentimes it normally does.
We've seen some pretty wild races around Baku. My mind always drifts to Tier 2 last season. 4 safety cars. Quite the campaign in that race. Came down to the line as well. Kai Bacchini and Liam in that collision. Literally a foot before the line.
And Customs into the pits again. So he looks like he's trying to get the highest pit stop counter on the grid.
Well, he's followed Brownie. Brownie, getting in on the softs, Mikcow. He waited as long as he could, and he's gonna be in this train. He says, you know what? I'm gonna go as long as I can on these tires, and I'm gonna get the quickest rubber I can, closest to the end of the race. And I think there's gonna be a lot of drivers looking in the rear as if that Racing Point's gonna get the grip he needs on these softs, Mikcow. He has not been having the race. I imagine he is hungry for some serious points.
Well, maybe getting it to like 7th or 6th might be a little bit out of reach, but he certainly has the pace for it. But can he make those moves stick is the next question. He has to get past Swifty first. So before you can be fighting for, you know, up where your teammate is in P7, you're going to have to get through the other 6 or so drivers in between you and him, which can be easier said than done, as we've seen in the opening few laps around during this race.
Yeah,
Custom has caught back up to the field, so I do believe the safety car will be coming in at the end of this lap.
well, we're going to be on board with Aleph as he gets us going here. I do believe as soon as we come out of turn 15, down just ahead of turn 16, we have that sector 2-3 split. And as soon as that car crosses, if it doesn't say it's coming in, then we got a problem.
I'm sure it will come in. And there's the call. Safety car in this lap. So Aleph, the newest reserve on the grid, will be leading this safety car restart. Behind him, Freeware, the German who has led every single lap of this race so far, I do believe, or been in the net lead for every single lap of this race.
What a race it's been.
It has been a crazy one. But it's not over yet. We still have 6 laps of green flag running to go once. Aleph puts his foot down. He's put his foot down now just before the DRS activation point. It looks like there's a whole lot of battling going all across this grid. The green flag has been lifted. We are racing once again. And Nigel just going very slowly, letting all of the cars through. It looks like Aleph has survived turn 1 from Freeware, and then it's Jean, and the other in the Alfa Romeo, S-King in 4th, Yoda in Brainstew, Neon Rays, Fraser, Zamis, and Remco Van Putten, your top 10. Brownie is up into 13th at the moment. He's gotten past both Swifty and Custom. And he will hold on to that position heading into turn 3. There are battles happening all over this grid. It looks like a bit of a parade at the moment. Freeware very close to the back of Elf as they make their way through the second sector, heading towards the castle section. John very close behind them. All of these guys on fresh, soft compound tires, so they're going to have a lot more grip compared to those mediums, I can tell you that much. Through the castle section we go. Swifty pick up a time penalty for multiple warnings. Does anyone die in the castle section? Looks like all the drivers have made it through cleanly.
Yeah, Brainstew looking at Yoda. He's very quick coming up through castle section. He's utilizing a little bit of that battery. He's looking at the inside of turn 15. He jumps back on the line though, and there's so much fighting, and we're seeing the true pace of this grid right now unimpeded by VSCs or safety cars now that we've had this restart. And just look at the gaps on this tower. Look at the difference in tires. This is going down to the wire, and there's not a lot of drivers on this grid right now with penalties, but if they do have penalties, that safety car is going to, well, make it a lot worse.
Of course, no DRS yet. It will be enabled in a couple laps' time. But Brainstew having a look at Yoda, but he isn't quite able to get past. Yoda goes a little bit deep into turn 1, though. Brainstew with the great move, forcing the McLaren into a mistake, and he is now up into P5. So what a great move from him. Wow.
What a train we're seeing on this grid right now.
Yeah, it's quite the sight. Looks like Yeah, oh, Brownie going for a lunge on Rackety, and he's now up into 12th. So he's just charging his way through this field. BTFU has made a mistake, and he's tapped the wall at the exit of turn 4. Zamus and Fraser also going side by side, heading into sector 2. Zamus leaving enough space, but Fraser will make that move stick on those softs. Zamus now trying to find a way around the outside. Remco Van Putten has a great view of this. So they make their way into the castle section, only one way through here. These cars too wide to make it, well, too wide. Going through that section of circuit.
Yeah, Remco Van Putten in a serious striking position right now. Zamus is on these mediums, and at this point, they are not the quicker tire, but it's very possible by the end of this, well, by the final lap of this race, we could see a bit of a drop-off where the mediums actually surpass the softs in pace. But it's going to be Remco Van Putten at the time. He needs to get ahead of that Red Bull.
Yeah, another one who's looking to get ahead is Brownie. He's now all over BTFU on this main straight. He looks to the left. It's not, the gap's not there. He looks to the right. The gap is there, but I don't think he has the speed that he needs. BTFU using that overtake mode just to get to stay in front. Remco Van Putten going off to the left, trying to cool that engine down, it might seem. Just trying to spot its breaking point, but DRS has now been enabled for these drivers. Alf still in the lead of this race on those 6-lap-old mediums. Freeware unable to get past off the restart on the first 2 laps. We will have the DRS assistance, Jean, getting very, very close to the back of him. Currently sitting in the 3rd position. S-King in 4th, and they have a second gap between top 4 and Brainstew in 5th.
Yeah, Brownie charging through this field. He's dispatched BTFU now. Remco Van Putten, the next target on his list in that racing point.
Yeah. Brownie trying to get at least something for the horrible, horrible race that he has had. Neon Rays, meanwhile, in 7th position, locking up quite heavily into turn 7, into the castle section. He is quite the bottleneck again. He's losing lots and lots of time to Yoda. Swifty into the pits onto a fresh set of softs as well. I didn't quite see that one. But meanwhile, back with the front of this grid, Freeware, 3/10 is the gap. 3/10 is the gap between him and Jean as well. 4/10 to S-King, and Brainstew just outside of that 5/10 gap range. This is going to be a 5-car DRS train all the way down this main straight, as they will have 3 laps left when they cross the line, which will be quite the sight, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's going to be King, the last in this train, the closest in this train, really, but it's going to be Freeware on a left now. He's got these soft compound tires. They're wheel-to-wheel coming down into turn 1. Freeware's out in front, a left on the inside. They're wheel-to-wheel through. We have the side shot coming out of that AlphaTauri, and he is ahead of the Ferrari into turn 2. But, of course, a left on these medium compound tires. What's the traction going to be like? It's going to be DRS for him coming into turn 3. But John, on these softs behind him, he's going to have to defend now. How's it going to go? A left. He looked at Freeware briefly there, but he's holding on the rear of that AlphaTauri. Freeware having such a dominating good race here in Baku. He has a Ferrari looking right at him in the rears now, and he cannot make any mistakes. A left, just as hungry for this race win, and John has put himself into a solid position, but it's him, King, in the rear view of Jean and Brainstew. It's just a massive train all the way down through from the leader of this race, and who knows what's going to happen come the line. We're currently on lap 24. Brownie has been chopping his way through this grid. He's dispatched Remco Van Putten. Next up, it's Zamus, the founder of the MRL. Of course, he's chasing down Neon Rays right now, and with that DRS on Neon Rays ahead, it's of course Brownie's teammate for this race, given Brownie in that reserve role. I imagine if this was a full-time slot, maybe there would be some kind of hold-up from that racing point ahead. But right now, Zamus is just breathing down the neck of Neon Rays. And we come out of turn 15 here. All of this battling is going to be giving Brownie a very, very good opportunity to make it into some further points positions.
Neon Rays with a little bit of a slow to the rear coming out of 16. That's really going to hurt him. Zamus using all of that battery, getting as close as he can, trying to get that slipstream. He's going to wait for that DRS to open up. Brownie showing some great speed as well. Is this going to be 2-1 for the racing point? Oh, he's got so much speed. He looks to the inside now. And it looks like it might be 3 wide for those 3. But Zamus will lose out to Brownie. So Brownie up into P9. Now he has his teammate of Neon Rays in the back. And there's been an incident.
What was that?
Too late on the brakes. and Brownie has been sent into the escape road. Oh no. That is really, really unfortunate for the Racing Point. After such a good charge, now has it all back to do. 3.3 seconds to find in 2 laps just to get P11. It's a tough ask. We'll see what he's able to do. Freeway now actually falling behind. I think those softs are starting to die. Those mediums from the Ferrari setting in nicely. Alf now back into the lead of this race. 7/10 is the gap. Jean now still holding station in 3rd. S-King in 4th. Brainstew in 5th. And Yoda is right behind him. We can see these medium runners starting to find a bit more pace compared to the softs. Those softs starting to wear out after those 6 laps of hard running.
Yeah, meanwhile, BTFU, sorry to interrupt, Mikcow, BTFU under serious, Zamis under serious threat from BTFU into turn 15. He's less than half a second, but we're going to jump back on over to King because it's Jean who has him in the rear view. King looking for a podium in the Williams.
Yeah, what a podium it would be. DRS open overtake mode is on for both of these drivers. Looks like S-King will have a little bit more battery than the Alfa Romeo next to him. They're still side by side heading into the break zone for turn 1. S-King squeezing Sean into the wall there. Not the cleanest move I've seen, but he gets the move done.
Yoda's made it through on Brainstew, but Brainstew's going to be looking to hunt him back down, but he's had a huge kick out from the rear of that Mercedes. Mikcow coming out of 2, and he's not going to be happy about that. And Remco Van Puten's had a major issue coming outside of turn 1, and it looks like that's Rackety in the mix as well. What on earth is going on between the Renault and McLaren coming outside of the pit lane? What the heck is going on there?
I don't know, Strip. We are on the last lap of this race. Alf now has an 8/10 gap to Freeway. Freeway has basically been in the lead of this race the whole stint, and not going onto those medium tires might have cost him.
Zamis.
I don't know if he had an extra set either as well. Zamis as well.
Zamis has just handed Brownie a position, I think, as a result of maybe their contact, but he's also got a lot of damage.
Yeah, I don't know what's happening there. Looks like there's another bit of a tussle at the back of the field. Not quite sure what's going on there, but meanwhile at the front, Alf now, 1.2 seconds is the gap. Those softs are dead. I'll say it again, those softs are dead. Freeware might just have to settle for P2 in this race as they make their way down out of the final couple of corners into the main straight. On his MRL debut, Alf, he's drove superbly, had the alternate strategy, starting on those hards, going to the mediums just before the safety car was called out, but here will cross the line to take the win. Here in Baku, Freeway will cross the line in 2nd, and King will get a podium for Williams. What an amazing drive for those 3. Jean in 4th, Yoda in 5th, Brainstew 6th, Fraser coming across the line in 7th, William for Chenjay. Neon Rays in 8th will score some points for the Racing Point squad. BTFU in 9th, and Zamis will get that final point after Brownie's penalties, it would seem.
What a very unique race. Well, Brownie was on the back foot from the moment we said go, Mikcow, with that AI taking control. But of course, I left with a fantastic drive today, getting the P1 out from... He's made up 10 positions, Mikcow, in this race. So has King, up 17 slots here. It's been a crazy race. You can see all of the position changes on screen on that timing tower here as we wait for the last couple drivers to finish. Remco Van Puten, as well as Swifty.
Remco Van Puten just putting on a bit of a show. What a horrible restart for the Renault, if I do say so myself. Not quite sure what happened there at turn 1. But that will be the finishing order of this race. Don't know how long
he's done.
Going to plan to be doing donuts. He's done doing donuts.
I think he was waiting for. I think he was waiting for Swifty, and that's going to wrap up this race. Of course. Thank you to everybody who tuned in for that one. It was a very, very unique, exciting race. Of course, the full replay and highlights can be found on our YouTube channel, as well as from Tier 2 that you may have witnessed earlier today. My name is Strifium. Joining me, as always, is Mikcow. Really quick before we jump into some closing regards. Once again, Aleph in the Ferrari from 11th to 1st with the win here in Baku. It was the Azerbaijan Grand Prix for Round 8 of MRL Tier 1 Freeware, taking things home in second. He started on pole, but things just didn't finish out that way. And King, with one heck of a drive for Williams, from 20th to 3rd. Rounding out your top 3 podium finishers here. What a race it was. Jean in 4th, Yoda in 5th for McLaren. He moved up from 9th, and there was just so much upset in this race. You can see now, of course, Brainstew in 6th, Fraser 7th, Neon Rays in 8th, BTFU in 9th, Zamis rounds out your top 10, Custom in 11th, Brownie in 12th, Rackety in 13th, Swifty in 14th, Remco Van Poot in 15th, that's Nigel in 16th, Henners 17th, Astrodate 18th, Becky in 19th on his full-time debut, not able to finish in this one, and Alex Bitto out very, very early on. Of course, what just a wild, wild ride that one was, Mikcow.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better myself. That was a crazy, crazy race. Probably for the drama that it caused more than all of the insane overtaking, but there was no shortage of overtaking in this race. Of course, S-King going all the way from last to 3rd. That is a great, great effort. And Alf as well from 11th to 1st after that. Superb strategy call. But I think that is it for us here this evening.
Yes, it is. And of course, once again, if you are looking to jump into some racing action, guys, join the Misfits community. We're looking for racers forever and always. Reserves, full times, doesn't matter. If you're just looking to learn, jump into league racing, that's okay. We got tons of racing action happening. Everybody's super approachable, super friendly. Join the Misfits community, guys. Family's waiting, I swear. It's super fun. That's why I got into what I'm doing here with the commentaries, and that's how I met Mikcow, of course. Now, with all that being said, guys, highlights on the YouTube, updates on the Twitter, and of course, you can find all of that and in between on the Discord. My name's Strifium, and that is going to finish things out for our stream today. But with that, we are going to jump on over. We're going to see Mr. Zamis, who of course founded the Misfits. I hope you guys wish him well, and well, perhaps ask him how his race went. And we will see you guys once again tomorrow at 2 p.m. CDT, 8 p.m. BST for MRL Club Division. We do Baku for the last time this week, heading into the weekend. Hope to see you then. Thank you very much, guys. Have a great night.